YouTube, Ozzy, the Goat House is back. After the 3 NFL games on Thanksgiving, I'm here to give you my takeaways for all 3. Not the best games. There was 2 that were close. The second one was pretty entertaining. Obviously, the refs controlled a bit of that one, but we're here to give you my takeaways, break it down. We're going to do the same thing for Sunday games like we do every single week. We got weekly content. We had a recent mock draft go up as well. Check it out. Link down below, pinned in the comments with the recent videos, along with some important links like our Twitter. Check it out. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. You guys know the drill. First game, Bears and Lions. Close game. Not the most entertaining game, though. 16-14. The Bears pull it off in the end. I did think the Bears probably slightly outplayed the Lions anyway, so it's not like it took them to, well, it did take them to the end to finish it off there. But and the difference was that slight underthrow from Dalton, a hell of an interception by Amani Oruwariye. That was a huge moment. I think if Oruwariye doesn't get that pick for the Lions defense, Bears probably get some more points. The Bears probably control the rest of the game. Because remember, they were winning for most of this game. So that was a big moment, in my opinion, which made the Lions, eventually take the lead, and then made it come down kind of the last second there. So the Bears do pull it off, despite missing quite a few players there, and despite the whole nonsense with Matt Nagy. And as bad as Matt Nagy's been, he was not the worst coach on the field in this game. The Lions coaching staff deserves a lot of blame, the whole thing, but just so poor. I've been talking about it for weeks. Just so poorly coached by the Lions, and it's why don't they have a win? I think most people will say it's because their roster just isn't that good. They got a lot of young players. Sure, they had a good draft, but it's going to take time to develop them. And it's true. They do have one of the worst rosters in football. But the main reason they have 0 wins is because the coaching staff. It's pretty plain and simple. If you've watched the games and just taken away the part that, they just don't have the talent out of your head, you would realize it. So, and this was a big one. I mean, the end of this game was just so poorly coached, and it makes you question, when it gets to the point where it makes you question if the Lions, did they do it on purpose? Are they losing on purpose? And they're not, because you see the emotion of Dan Campbell, Aaron Glenn, these types of guys each and every week. They're not losing on purpose, but that's how bad it is. Just fast forward to the end of the game. The Lions kind of saving their timeouts. You start to question it, kind of leading in the 2-minute warning a little bit. But it's not a problem. You're saving your timeouts. You're going to have to use them wisely, and they use them very poorly. The way they choose to use their timeouts, when the clock is stopped, they use 2 in a row, before a play, which is delay of game, absolute disaster. And then they have to use the second one they have to use to call a timeout because they don't like how their defense is aligned, and then you go out there and you're almost in a prevent. The entire secondary is backed up to the end zone when the most important thing is that first down marker on third down here, because if the Bears get the first down, they can drain the rest of the clock, kick the field goal, and win, which they did. Everybody knows that before that play happened. Letting up a touchdown is actually better for the Lions than letting up a first down, and it's looked like they purposely just let them get the first. It's just poorly coaching. It's poorly coaching. They're about to have to use another timeout after that, or take a delay of game. But the Bears weren't situated, so they had to call a timeout. It's just, and even before that, throughout the early part of the game, it was run, screen pass a lot, or a run, punt the ball. Any second and long or third and long situation, they were running the ball. There was, when they went and scored that touchdown to take the lead, well, their first touchdown, they threw the ball downfield. They were hitting Josh Reynolds downfield. Looked great. That Goff-Reynolds connection, good pickup getting Reynolds because he looks like he might be their best receiver. Got him going downfield right early in the game, and they completely stopped, not only going to Reynolds, but they completely stopped with any downfield play at all, So it's very questionable. And then, when they went and finally scored again, they were pushing the ball downfield instead of messing around. So it's like, whenever they tried, they could have scored there. So it's very questionable coaching. It's kind of, last week against the Browns, if you ran the ball more, I think they would have won that game against the Browns. So there's been a lot of those situations. The first time playing the Bears, deciding to go for it instead of kicking field goals in obvious situations where you should kick the field goals or vice versa, kick the field goals when you should go for it. There's been multiple games like that. It's just a poorly coached team, and you start to worry because, I think the front office did a good job drafting for the Lions. I like their draft class a lot. It's not going to click right away. That makes sense. But my point is, I trust them drafting. Let's trust them getting the good players in there. But then you got to start to wonder, are they going to have the right coaching staff? Even when they do get talented, when they do develop these players, are they going to develop these players correctly? So you start to question a little bit. And it's crazy. The whole Matt Nagy thing to me it's kind of hidden a little bit, kept quiet just because how bad the performance of the coaching staff, the Lions, were in this one. Win another winnable game for the Lions. They could have like 4 or 5 wins. It's ridiculous. Coaching staff holding them back. I'm sure they got to be more talented. The Bears, I was surprised they couldn't run the ball a little more effectively. I noticed, the running backs not hitting the hole. There was actually holes on some of these plays, and they were kind of just putting their head down and trying to go into contact. And Montgomery's been a good back. He's more of he wants to bounce off contact. But missing some holes in this one. So I was surprised at that and the lack of running game for them. Dalton threw the ball a lot. He racked up some yards. Minus the interception, which was again, if he doesn't throw that interception, I think the Bears probably hold on. I mean, they won the game, but they probably hold on the rest of the way, more comfortable. And win, I suppose. But other than that, Dalton was pretty solid. Mooney's great. Getting Mooney going. You see the separation he gets. I love to see that. That's a good young player they got there at receiver. And, even when, Al Robinson was out, but even when he's been in, Mooney's still been their best receiver, which is crazy. Cole Kmet got going. Like to see that. Got a lot of targets in this game. Just not a whole lot in this game. Not a whole lot. It was just... I just can't believe the Lions didn't get a shot at the end. They really messed up the time management, the timeout management, at the end. The Lions should have got a shot. Would they have went and won the game? I'd say because of the Lions, maybe unlikely, but, it's crazy they didn't get a shot at the end. But, close game, not the most entertaining game, though. And next, this game was pretty wild because it was pretty close, a lot of scoring. It went to overtime. The Raiders, it's a big win for the Raiders. They've been losing quite a bit, obviously, and they pull it out here. And then this is 3 out of 4 last 4 games for the Cowboys. The Cowboys dropped the last 3 out of 4. Don't know why I couldn't spit that out. Last 4 games, they lost 3 of them. They won 1. We had that disaster against the Broncos, and then they have this game where they give up 36 points and inconsistencies on offense. The offense couldn't get going last week against the Chiefs, which we thought was a winnable game. So. And they have injuries. That's kind of the thing even going into the season we worry about with the Cowboys. Can these guys stay healthy? Tyron Smith gets back in there. He didn't play a good game, so which is odd to see. So it's just a big question. Can the Cowboys stay healthy? Can they stay consistent? They're able to fight back and put a point to this. Kind of how the Raiders start in this game. They get a 3-and-out, and then they get Deshaun Jackson going down the field. Real good ball by Derek Carr. That start was everything in this game because from there on out, it was pretty much the Cowboys trying to keep up with the Raiders. Like, we're going to keep fighting, but, the Raiders keep going. The Cowboys defense has had some ridiculous performances this year. So, the Raiders struggling, turning the ball over on offense before this. And it was a little surprising they were giving up that much. Right off the bat, going back to that start, Derek Carr hitting that ball downfield, great throw to Deshaun Jackson. And was Deshaun Jackson part of the game plan going for the Cowboys? You got to recognize him. You watch this guy, watch his speed. We know he's going to go downfield, but it's not a huge part. It's not even close to a huge part of that game plan. So the Raiders coming out and Derek Carr hitting that throw downfield and Deshaun Jackson getting going was massive, was absolutely massive because the Cowboys got to fear this all of a sudden. Like, going in, they got to fear the deep ball somewhat, even though it hasn't been getting going that much recently. But now you got to factor in Deshaun Jackson. You got to factor in Carr's kind of in his groove already. They're getting going downfield. So right after that, you noticed that, and early on, we had a couple pass interference calls on Anthony Brown as well. So you got the downfield plays. One that went for a touchdown was huge. You got a couple pass interferences downfield. So the Cowboys kind of in that, not really a panic mode, but we got to adjust things on the fly mode here. And they're playing their safeties deep, too deep if you ask me. Helping over the top because you're worried about the deep ball. You're worried about the corners one-on-one getting pass interference. So the safeties are deep. And that kind of opened things up for the Raiders underneath, kind of checking it down to, and it's not really check downs. I think they were designed plays to Josh Jacobs underneath. But they're still hitting the throws downfield. So no matter what, the safeties were deep downfield, and the Raiders are mixing it up downfield, underneath, big play, downfield. So the Raiders were kind of in heads of the Cowboys defense. And when I say the Cowboys defense, I mean the players and the coaching staff there. And Dan Quinn's been fantastic this year. But so I think Deshaun Jackson, the next drive, they had a big PI call. There was two actually on that drive. The first one was a mauling. It was for sure PI. The second one I didn't really agree with. It was the one where they were saying he hooked Deshaun Jackson's arm. But I didn't see a hook. He didn't actually kind of hook him up and lock him up. Corners they're actually taught to ride the hip. So I know my whole arm doesn't show. So you ride the hip, and they're going like this. And then Deshaun Jackson sticks his arm underneath. It's a good move by him. He sticks his arm underneath that and makes it look like he's hooking him. It's a smart play, but there's really nothing the corner can do. That should not be called. But it's not like a sketchy call. Like the refs see it live, and they thought it was a flag. So I'm not complaining too much. I just didn't think that was a call. There was a lot of questionable calls in this game for the most part, and there was a questionable one later on Andre James, the center of the Raiders. They called in my opinion, I can't stand when centers are sitting there doing this. I'm like, they got to change that where that should be called. I've been saying that for years and years. I didn't really like that, but it's always been no false start. You're allowed to do that. That's what it's been. And they, for some reason, called it here, so it should not have been called. If I made the rules, I'm saying the center's not allowed to do that. To me, it's annoying, but you are allowed to do that. So, so there was, both teams suffered in a lot of yards and penalties. So, I don't think the refs decided who won in this game. I do think the Cowboys got the worst end of it, but I don't think the refs decided who won. I think the refs just kind of ran the show in this game a lot. They were very loose, with those flags. Anything, questionable, they were calling it. So that it's like a good game, goes to overtime, but that kind of ruins it a little bit, in my opinion. But and then we get to overtime. And I think there was a flag on the kickoff. There was two flags and within 3 plays, or maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you get the point. And the Cowboys had a shot to start. So credit to, the Raiders defense didn't do a whole lot. Look at the start. They forced a 3-and-out in the start of the game, and they forced a 3-and-out in the start of overtime. I mean, that is huge. So the Raiders gave up 33 points and let the Cowboys get back. So people really won't be talking about, and I really wasn't planning on coming into this talking about the Raiders defense giving them credit, but the more I think about it, two huge moments. The start of the game, and then the start of overtime. I mean, absolutely huge. The 3-and-outs. It's not like they're 6-and-outs, 3-and-outs, and then kind of going back to start, like I said, the defense forces a 3-and-out, and then Derek Carr, Deshaun Jackson able to hit that play, get up, and then make the Cowboys defense fear them. That was it. So Cowboys defense just didn't seem like them. They didn't, even though there's been other games where they gave up a bit. It just didn't seem like them in this one. Parsons played well. Keanu O'Neal was flying around the field. Not much else. Safety's playing too far off. Corners kind of getting beat, interfering. They were interfering receivers. Just felt like kind of Parsons starting to carry the way there, really. The interior guys were all right. Hamilton made a couple good plays. Odigizua was blowing some things up, so they didn't play poorly. Raiders it's just this is a weird season. Raiders looking so bad the last few weeks, going against the Bengals, and they're hitting Joe Burrow. They forced a turnover right away. They started well in that game. How you start so important. We saw it in this game. But then they just couldn't get anything going. They couldn't get anything going. The Bengals didn't even have to pass the ball on them. They won with just running the ball. Where were the Raiders at? And the Raiders losing, even the Giants just turning the ball over too much, and the Chiefs just getting blown out by the Chiefs and just looking sloppy. And then all of a sudden, at that point, it's like, who are these Raiders? It's not the guys we saw earlier in the year. And then we see a game like this, and like, where were these guys the last couple weeks? It's just been a weird year. Cowboys. Yeah, they fought back in this one. Tony Pollard had a good game. They got Michael Gallup going, but I think it was just too late. It was too late when they got him going. Dak, the drive. He had really good throws in this game. The drive to bring him back that eventually tied the game. Some beautiful throws down the field. Overtime, that first drive, he had an opportunity to hit was a Noah Brown on 3rd down. He missed them. Definitely won. Even though overall a good game, some, again, beautiful throws in this game. A throw like that, he definitely would want back. Because if you get that first down there, who knows who wins this game? And there was a PI in overtime that kind of helped the Raiders get down there. And it's probably a debatable one as well. It depends on, because there was contact, and the DB kind of not getting his head around, they kind of did away with that. It used to be you don't even have to make contact. If you guard the guy's face and don't get your head around, it's pass interference. But they kind of did away with that. If you don't get your head around and make any kind of contact, it's usually the flag is usually thrown, though, and that's kind of what the case was here. But there are crews that won't call it because you're kind of bailing out a bad play. Even though Derek Carr had a really good game, that was a severely underthrown ball. I mean, that hit Anthony Brown in the back. So he's covering his guy pretty well. He's just underneath him. And the receiver has to fight back because it's an underthrown ball, and the receiver has to go through the defensive back to get to the underthrown ball. Some crews will view that as, there's really nothing you can do. The receiver had to go into the defensive back because the ball was so bad, So there's some crews that actually won't call that. So it's definitely debatable. It's just not one of those situations where it's a phantom officiating crew, and it is sketchy that it's a Thanksgiving primetime game and they just were really losing their flags, like they wanted to run the show. To me, that's what it was, but there was no rigged calls in my opinion. There's ones I disagree with, but there's none that say the ref knew that wasn't a flag and he threw it because he wants the Raiders or the Cowboys to win. There was none of that. It's just I thought it was just a poor performance from the refs, and they knew they were in the spotlight here. That's what it felt like. So tough one for the Cowboys because they dropped 3 of the last 4, and then the Eagles, Washington as well, but the Eagles are really heating up. So watch out for those guys, I suppose. And the last game really wasn't even close, 31-6, obviously. I will say this, if you didn't watch the game and you see 31-6, mainly the 31 points for the Bills, you probably think, the Saints defense, just what happened to the Saints defense. It's not really the same. It's bad. They played all right in this game, believe it or not, giving up 31 points. They held the Bills to 10 for a while, and they got 2 interceptions in the first half, and they were good plays, and they were, getting after Josh Allen in the pocket. And so the Saints defense was giving their offense opportunity. The offense just couldn't do anything. They couldn't do anything. Simeon, he hasn't been as bad as I thought he'd be, because we've seen him get his chances in the past. He's been a bad quarterback. He's been better than what I expect from Simeon, but he's in a game like this, he was pretty bad. Missing throws, and no one's helping him really. I mean, I said it's the same thing as last week. They just don't have enough right now, and it's partly due to the injuries, especially at the running back position, Kamara and Ingram. Ramczyk out. But the receiver position kind of going into the year was kind of like this, except, you expected to get Michael Thomas at some point. I remember I said I wouldn't be surprised if he missed the whole year. So this was, I guess they didn't pay too much. I guess they didn't pay too much attention to gathering more receivers off season, but they couldn't really. They put themselves in a situation where they really couldn't make too many moves. So the receiver position just in the tight end group is just what it is. It's just not enough there. It probably would have helped that if Taysom Hill could have went in this game, so that was unfortunate. There's not enough on offense. Just the Bills locking down, and I kind of had a feeling the Bills would have a good performance because they are a good defense. Despite what happened last week, they're a good defense, and they make sure they take care of business when they play teams like the Saints, who are thin on players. They just don't have the players, and the Bills are for sure better than them. They take care of business. In the games against the top teams, you still question the Bills, but good outing here. They got Diggs going. Diggs really got going, and that's where I still like the Saints defense, despite they give them 31 points. I think it's a very good defense, and maybe it's not as good as it has been in the recent past, because it's been one of the best in football. But they've been one of the best man coverage defenses. They play a lot of 2-man under, where you just get the safety help over the top, and they've been one of the, so a lot of man coverage. There's a lot of man coverage teams, but most teams run zone. But my point is, Saints been one of the better man coverage teams the last several years, and they're still a pretty good man coverage team. But just getting a game like this, a game with Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Emmanuel Sanders, these speedsters that got good footwork and they torch man coverage, and it starts to get too predictable. This is a good example where defense gets too predictable. Everybody knows the Saints run man coverage, and you can just tell by the way they're lined up, they're in man coverage. And it's just so hard to cover a guy like Stephon Diggs and his footwork. Marshawn Lattimore's a great corner, but Diggs going to beat him every time in man coverage. You even get that one step that he needs. So I think the Saints need to mix it up a little bit, and I guess there's a reason they don't. Maybe they're just not that great at zone. They don't have the players for zone. But even though, man, in my opinion, it's harder for corners. So it's just an example where it got predictable. But again, not on the defense. I just wish they would get a little unpredictable because it's been so many years, where they're just man coverage, a lot of man coverage, and the defense has been pretty stacked in the past and not so much anymore. So now you got to be less predictable here. So the Bills kind of took advantage. It was a good matchup for the Bills. That's why I predicted them to win 24-13. So the Saints didn't even score the 13 points. The Bills got an extra touchdown. That pick at the end really helped by Poyer. Tre'Davious White went down. Just remembered that in this game, and it seems to be some sort of knee injury. He's walking around, kind of stomping around because he's pissed. So you think, hey, maybe it's not that bad, but it's a tough dude, adrenaline flowing. So it doesn't sound like it's too great there. So that's pretty bad, especially because maybe it was a team that was in the market at the trade deadline for a corner. Maybe adding a guy like Kyle Fuller would have been big, and they didn't do that. Now they're thin on corners. So that's pretty tough for a team that we think could be a contender. But yeah, they had a great outing. Breida looking pretty solid as well. Knox getting going. He was a touchdown machine to start the year. And then if you're wondering what happened, he broke a bone in his hand and then kind of disappeared for a little bit, was out for a little bit. And now he gets back in his groove. He gets going. So maybe a must start in fantasy once again, because the last few weeks, based off that, it's like, when's he going to get back going? Is he going to get going again? Josh Allen, overall, good game. He did have 2 interceptions. In that, that's 7 interceptions the last 4 games, so that's not great. But yeah, I see a lot of it, and what I didn't see it in last year where he was better was, he wanted to get outside the pocket. Sometimes he did a little too early, but it ended up being a positive play because he can throw on the run. He has that arm strength even on the run, and he can run downfield. He can run, on that. And then this year, he's not really, somebody probably told him, somebody probably worked with him that, you don't have to get outside the pocket too much. You don't always have to do it, But now he's kind of sitting in there too long, and he doesn't have the longest time to throw. But the times where, he's kind of just sitting in the pocket, and it's not really forever because, again, he doesn't have a lot of time. But, there's times where he needs to get out of the pocket, and then all of a sudden turn, and he's trying kind of too late after he's under pressure, and then throws off his back foot or whatever it may be, and then ends up being interception. So I do notice a lot of that. When he gets outside the pocket, it looks great, and we've seen him use his legs and get out there, and he had a good game on the ground in this game as well. So just something I've noticed. So he's got to clean that up a little bit, but we know the talent is obviously there. Bills' offensive line, though, not a guy like Deion Dawkins, who I expect to be very good. Some of those guys been struggling a little more than you would think they would. But just a dominant outing here for the Bills. Defense did a phenomenal job. The defense was ridiculous. So we expect, it's one of the best defenses in football. We expect them in games like this. You expect them to be a little better in the heavyweight fight, if you will. Against the Colts, games like that. Titans. You expect them to be. You're a little surprised when they're not. They take care of business against these teams, but can they figure it out against the better teams? Maybe they're saving a little bit for the playoffs, because that is a game that some of these coach staffs go through, because the playoffs is all about game planning, and when teams got you figured out and know what you show in the regular season, that kind of does you in there. So hey, you never know. Maybe teams there always are teams that kind of save a little bit if they're confident going to playoffs. Is that the reasoning here? Is that the situation here? Only time will tell, for sure. So Saints, it's tough. At one point you thought they were a playoff team, and they definitely could still sneak in. That 6-7 seed range of the NFC is pretty much up for grabs. So they can kind of get things going if they turn it around. They're on a big losing streak. It's just weird seeing the Saints like this. It's really not weird if you see how beat up they are and who they're putting on the field, but it's just weird because we're used to Saints and just never really going on a losing streak and always taking care of business. But yeah, it's just a tough season for them this year. So those are the Thanksgiving games. I'm excited for Sunday football. Sunday's action, a lot of good games, a lot of tight games that can go either way. We'll have the breakdown on Monday, and we have that in-season content, and then we have all kinds of extra content. Again, recent mock draft as well. A lot of content on Twitter. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. That link for the Twitter down below. Recent videos down below as well. That's going to do it, though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.